That's a good thing, right? And speaking about parties or big gatherings, what do you think? What do you think? When Jesus fed the multitudes, remember? The 4,000, the 5,000. These weren't exactly a party. And who was Jesus actually inviting? I mean, I think it was pretty much anyone who cared enough to share whatever it was they brought, be it food or frustration, fear or despair. Yet Jesus welcomed, Jesus invited, and Jesus spoke to them all with everything they brought, all from the Gospel of Matthew and what we call the Beatitudes. For when Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, he climbed a hillside. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down and taught those who climbed with him. And this is what he said. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. When there's less you can do, there's more of what only God can do. You're blessed. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. For only then can you feel the embrace of the one who loves you best. And you're blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. For that's the moment you find yourselves the proud owners of everything that can't be bought. You're blessed. Blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. For God is both food and drink, and the best meal you'll ever get. You're blessed. You're blessed when you care. For at the moment of being careful, you find yourselves cared for. And you're blessed. Blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. Oh, and you're blessed. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. And you're blessed. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution, since this persecution drives you deeper into God's nature and rule. Not only that, count yourselves blessed every time people put you down or throw you out or speak lies to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort and they are uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens. For though they don't like it, I do. And you're in good company. For my prophets and witnesses have always gotten into this kind of trouble. So ends the reading. And what kind of trouble is that? Huh? What kind of trouble is that? Good trouble, I've heard. You heard that too? Yeah, spoken by the late, great Congressman John Lewis, who said, and I quote, get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America. And what exactly is good trouble? Well, I've looked it up and see that it refers to nonviolent, peaceful disobedience and taking action against unfair laws or systemic inequality. Now, this action, this trouble, whether it was in the earlier days of John Lewis on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in the 1960s, or even to this very day in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this trouble, this action is not intended to destroy, but to restore. Even to realize, what do we have? Even to realize the vision beautiful, where everyone is someone and everyone is blessed. But honestly, I've honestly had a hard time seeing this, especially when I've seen how people like us, people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy, were brutally murdered. For how in God's name were they and all those who loved them blessed by their being killed? So I went back to the gospel, and I reread that verse where Jesus said, "You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution, since this persecution drives you deeper into God's nature and rule." In other words, God's kingdom. But since we neither have nor do we want to have some king rule over us, we can and want to be deeply inspired by those who suffer for us, by those who suffer with us, like us, like the families and friends of Alex and Renee, who, as Jesus said, are blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. For only then can you feel the embrace of the one who loves you best. Likewise, the one whose love regards each and all of us as members of one family, God's family. For in the words of the Reverend Donna Jackson, who wrote what's on our bulletin, she writes, "I woke up the other day desperately needing to remember once again that a blessed life is not a charmed life. I needed to know that no matter what this world may throw at me, or what others might say about me or do to me, that I am blessed because I am a child of God." And we have some insight into this, don't we? We've seen this firsthand. For when we look at a baby, when we look at a child, don't we see their potential before we see their problems? Which is only to say that they, like we, like us, are not only blessed, but beautiful. Blessed and beautiful in the eyes of the God who beholds us, in the face of all we suffer, and in all the ways we care, even to remember how Jesus, on the night before he suffered, on the night before he was murdered. He cared enough to gather his disciples. Gather his disciples in an upper room where they would have the traditional night before Passover meal, a simple meal of bread and new wine. And at that meal, as usual, Jesus took the bread, gave thanks, broke it. But this time he said, "This is my body, to be broken for you. So as often as you eat it, remember us." Then after they had eaten, Jesus took the cup and gave thanks to God, the King of the universe, the maker of the wine. And as he poured it out, he said, "This is my blood. This is my blood to be shed for you. So as often as you drink it, remember me. Remember us." So we are invited, as those beloved by God, with the potential, even in the face of all our problems, even in the face of all we suffer. God welcomes us, for like the scripture said, God is food and drink, and the best meal we'll ever get. So come as you will, to partake of the food and drink that is nothing less than God's own love, God's own self. Please come forward.